year is 1960. You're a soldier in the army and you've just completed your tour in Germany. You're about to head home and your sergeant says to make sure you go buy a specific watch. It's the best one ever made. You go to a local German watch shop, you pick one that you like, and you even buy one for your dad. You spend a whopping $120 on a Rolex, which is $20 more than your monthly salary, and $104 you spend on your dad's Rolex really hits your savings. You come home, you put the box and papers in your closet, you wear the watch for decades. Eventually you pick up some Seikos to wear during the week to keep your Rolex for nicer occasions, but it doesn't get much wrist time as you enter your 70s. Most of the time that Rolex is in a drawer, it's now a family heirloom, and you think it might be worth $1,000 or so. You head into Antiques Roadshow.
Easily today, it's $65,000 to $75,000 in the market.
That's a true story, and chances are you've already seen the video, but I'll link to it below so you can really watch the guy's expression unfold as he tells a story. But I was struck with something as I was watching it, is that it's not that crazy to spend a month's salary on a watch or to really treat yourself in that way, but today with a Rolex, that isn't even possible. Today, base pay for an Army private is $1,599 per month, and if you want to pick up a Rolex GMT Master, you're looking at about $9,000 plus. You can absolutely make the argument that Army-based pay should be higher, but what I did was charted out the increase of Rolex prices against national wages and inflation over the past 50 years. I was able to get pricing on a lot of different models, but I just focused on two of Rolex's biggest models, the Datejust and the Submariner, and I was also able to get wage inflation information back to 1957 as well. Because it's always comical to talk about products and what they cost in the old days, where gas was a quarter and milk was 5 cents and Rolexes were $120. But when you compare that to the increase in inflation and you see that the Datejust has increased over 200% over inflation and the Submariner is over 600% over inflation, well, something is just odd about that. And the more that I've dove into the watch world, the more that I've heard those stories. Rolex used to be an attainable treat. TGV mentioned this on a live stream talking about Bond watches, is that plumbers used to wear Submariners, and it used to be something that, you'd get that for your birthday after so many years, or companies would give them out as gifts. But that was really up until the 90s when a Rolex was like 1 month's salary. Today, it's more like 3 or 4 months salary for most people. So I have two more charts and then we'll get into some hypothesis. So this chart shows the Submariner as charted out by actual retail cost in blue. You see this crazy increase coming in the mid 2000s, and then down in the red is the price that it would be had it kept up with the rate of inflation. You can see that that price in today's dollars would be about $1,100. And it's a very similar story for the Datejust. So here in blue, we have the actual cost, and there's a staggering increase again at the 2000s, but also at the end of the 80s. And you can see in red that it would be about $2,000 keeping up with inflation. A few takeaways and assumptions to why these prices would have increased. So obviously the price is lowest, and you can see this in the Datejust in the 1970s during the quartz crisis, which is when the whole Swiss watch industry was really shaken. In the 70s, they started to get their footing back, and then in the 80s, they made that pivot into luxury status. That also correlates well with the rise of rich culture, so Wall Street in the late 80s, and then the 90s era of hip hop where they idolized status symbols in things like Rolexes. And I've heard a number of anecdotal stories about the rise in the Submariner price starting in those late 2000s. They're constantly improving on their technology and the materials used within there, but that's quite an increase. And Rolex has absolutely earned the reputation they have in the watch world. They were the first waterproof wristwatch with the Oyster case, auto-changing date, the first watch with 2 time zones, the very first watch with a chronometer certification. So they have the technical and innovation aspects of the brand that really establishes themselves as a luxury watchmaker, but then they sponsor golf, tennis, and racing events to really mint that luxury status. They also get on the wrist of many of those athletes and then celebrities, movie stars, and so it's really a virtuous cycle. What's really interesting to me is looking at the price of the Datejust, where it should be today at about $2,000, and that's really where Tudor is positioning themselves today, and they're sitting in that price point, which really fulfills Hans Wilsdorf's goal for that brand, which was to offer the highest quality timepiece at an attainable price. So there you have it, gents. That is the insane price increase on Rolex over time. I'd love to hear your comments below about why you think that these prices have increased. What did I miss as I was looking at all of this information? Maybe something big. So let me know down in the comments below. You can also reach out at _Kavalier on Twitter and Instagram. Love to hear from you guys over there. And until next time, gents, this is the Kavalier.